In a small town called Ikinga, there were two beautiful but mean sisters who were showered with almost everything they wanted. Like every other parent, Ezeego, as he's called, was wealthy enough to take care of his family as he had a lot of inheritance from his late father. This made Mbeke and Mbafor carry themselves in high esteem as they looked down on their peers in the village while they adored their beauty. They would go to the stream to fetch water, and when the other maidens began to sing songs, they would walk away without joining them to sing. The women and their young daughters would begin to mumble words of gossip, questioning one another. Who do they think they are? They would ask themselves. Mama Chizaram one day pulled her daughter's ears with a sounding warning. Don't you ever think of bringing me and my husband problems and shame like these mean girls. So suitors from other villages will come at intervals during the festive season to look for their brides, and when they come, the maidens of the village will come out dancing under the moonlight with white native chalk designed on their face and their legs by their mothers to help them get a suitor. Whenever Mbeke and Bafo were approached by other men from the neighboring villages and towns, they would turn down even the ones that came asking for their hands in marriage from their papa and mama. The young men of Ikinga avoided the two sisters because they knew they also would be turned down. This continued for a long time, and some of their peers were already married. But Mbeke and Bafo insisted they would wait until the choosing time when the soon to be crowned king will call for maidens to choose for themselves a wife. We are beautiful, they said. We deserve the best, and the prince might decide to pick both of us as his wives, they concluded to themselves. Their parents, Mr. and Miss Ezeego, were getting tired of the visitations from elders around, who always came to complain about their daughters. We are worried about the fact that your daughters are not prepared for marriage, and they can't hope only for the soon to be crowned king. They said to Ezeego. Chief Chuku said, a wise man would never put all eggs in one basket. Meanwhile, one of their cousins, who had been living with them since they lost her parents, had a different attitude towards elders and strangers. She was very friendly and welcoming. Most people in the village would begin to talk when they see the three ladies walk together around the village. Why is she different? They would ask amongst themselves. Adana, their cousin, will greet and even offer to help people lift their pots on their heads. This will anger Mbeke and Bafo. They would walk away from her, leaving her to run after them just to catch up. Adana does most of the chores in the house, while they watch, giving her gist after gist, so she can get carried away. But Adana most times complained, but Mbeke would say they can't get their soft hands dirty because they were preparing for the marriage, for the soon to be crowned king to choose them as wives. Papa and Mama would try enforcing that Adana gets assisted by their daughters, but to no avail. Adana would sometimes cry after Mama tell her, your reward is in the hands of the gods, my daughter. The chosen festival came by and all the maidens prepared to appear at the village square. They had practiced different dance, applied ointments on their skin to look more attractive. This, they believe, will give them the opportunity to be picked by the prince. Before the cock crowed that morning, Mbeke and Bafo were already wide awake. They couldn't sleep because of the excitement. It was unlike them, as they were fond of waking up late. As usual, Adana was already cleaning the compound and Mbafo and Mbeke joined her to do few chores, hoping this little good will grant them favor in the gods' eyes. She joined them to prepare for the festival as ordered by the kingdom, that every maiden should be at the village square. Mbafor couldn't wait for Mbeke, so she left early to the village square. Mbeke took her time to dress up for the event. Their mother insisted that someone was going to make the meal before they leave for the square, but Adanna knew that she had to stay back to make the meal. On the way, Mbafor met an old woman who was sitting on the bush path. She called out to Mbafor to help her lift the wood and put it on her head. Mbafor looked at her and her hand that she admired so much. She thought to herself that she would get her palm in dirt, so she walked away without saying a word. Mbeke met the same woman on the way to the village square, but told the woman, "I can't lift your load. I've never done such work before. Besides, if only you knew where I was heading to, you wouldn't be asking me for such favor cause you're delaying me." The old woman pleaded, but she pushed her hands away. Adanna rounded up with the cooking and went along the path where she saw the old woman. She called out to Adanna to help her lift the wood on top of her head, and Adanna offered to help the woman take it to her destination. "You are not like the rest," she said. "Draw near, I have something important to tell you." Afterwards, the old woman blessed her and asked her to hurry to the village square. The square was crowded with a lot of people when Adanna arrived. The crowd startled her. "Do we have this number of people in this village?" she muttered to herself. Standing next to her was Mama Obi. Their pleasantries was brief before she asked, "What are you doing here, Ada? Are you not also a maiden in this village?" Ada thought if her father was from the village, then can she be eligible for the contest? "Go forward to where other maidens are," Mama Obi persuaded, because she knew Adanna would not join the other maidens in the village. The moment anyone in the village sighted her standing next to them, they would ask her to go forward to be amongst other maidens. This was how Adanna made it out of the crowd. Other maidens cited her as she looked beautiful and different. The old woman had made some touches and changes in her style and design. Another pattern of white chalk on her body. Mbafor and Mgbeke were proud that their sister looked responsible and presentable, although their jealousy burned slowly within them for her appearance, as it was nothing like anyone else. They asked each other where she got her designs from. "How would I know? I left her at home making food for Mama. Does it mean she has been pretending all along?" They said to themselves. "We are still the most beautiful girls in the village. None can match our beauty," Mbafor concluded. It was time, and every maiden danced and danced as they had practiced. Mbafor danced with her sister as much as they had practiced at home. It was the last group where Adanna joined. She was slow to step out as she had not practiced any step at all when the music started. Adanna remembered the dance steps her mom danced for her father as she was taught when the music began. She began to remember the stories of her mother winning the best dancer in the village as she led many dance groups to village competitions. So Adanna began to dance. She made the same steps as her mom did with confidence, and these steps pleased the elders and everyone watching, because it was not like that of the other maidens. The prince stood up to show he was pleased with her performance. After the dance was over, 5 girls were picked from the maidens of the village, which Adanna was amongst them. The villagers were shocked to see the 3 maidens from the same family in the final stage. The king stood up and congratulated them for reaching the final stage. Meanwhile, the prince's eyes was pinned, admiring Adana. She looked away to avoid his eyes darting into the white space in hers. While the king made his speech to the villagers, he announced that the person his son will marry is the one who can say the name of the prince. Then did everyone realize they called the prince a name that wasn't his real name. Mbeke and Mbafor looked at each other in shock when they heard about it because they never expected this to be the criteria to be chosen by the prince. Adana was confused as everything happened so fast at the same time. Every maiden was called out for questioning, and it got to Mbafor's turn. She was asked to step out. Then the king asked her what the name of the prince was, and she just stood dumb without uttering a word. The king commanded her to leave as her journey had ended. She left his presence with grief and shame as the crowd laughed her to scorn, saying, "What happened to your high horse?" she cried, hiding from the villagers. A few maidens came forth to try before Mbeke. When she was asked, she attempted some royal names she knew, but the crowd laughed at her too, as she also joined her sister to cry, as they both felt humiliated. The prince, on the other hand, had hoped that none of the girls would get it correct except Adana. When the king asked Adana's group to come forward, the crowd started watching with interest. The king called out Adana and asked, "What is the name of the prince?" She hesitated for a while before she said, "Ukadike." The prince stood up leaping with joy, forgetting his royalty as he had already fallen in love with Adana. Then the old woman came out from behind the king's court and blessed Adana and the prince. The maidens saw the old woman whom they had denied assistance once. Then they knew that she was from the royal family, sent to disguise herself to find who the best maiden suitable for the prince was. She had helped Adana redesign her dress and made special ancient markings on her body with the white chalk, and told her the name of the prince because of her kind gesture. All the maidens in the village, including Mbafor and Mbeke, learned that beauty is not enough. Please subscribe to our channel, like, and also share to those who may find this content interesting.